All right, thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigeria newspapers. And I begin with the Nation newspaper. The major story here says, APC Atiku bicker over Tinubu's Chicago State University certificate. I am filing fresh evidence as Supreme Court. Ex-Vice President chasing shadows, says President's Chicago lawyer. All right, you find the details of that story on the front page. Another one here says, Forex crisis, federal government opens talks with World Bank. Economic challenges over soon, says Edun. Senate summons service chiefs over rising insecurity. That story you find at the top corner here. School curricula now to embrace infotech. President extols teachers. And then we have another story at the top corner. 2 billion naira palliative cash for Osun still unspent, says governor. Tribunal holds Kebbi Governor Idris's victory. All the details on the front page of the Nation newspaper. We'll move now to the Leadership newspaper, and the major story here says, a certificate saga. Atiku rallies opposition as APC asks ex-VP to lick his wounds. And the writer, support us to reclaim mandates, Labour Party tells Atiku. And then we have another story here. World Teachers Day, Nigerian teachers lament neglect. Nigerian teachers lament neglect. And the story down here says, kidnapping, Senate demands special operation in Northwest. Marketers demand emergency palliative to ease petrol import. Impeachment, Ayedatiwa asks Ondo CJ to ignore State Assembly. Supreme Court decides Kanu's fate, December the 15th. All of the details on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. To the Daily Sun now. Chicago State University certificate saga, no retreat, no surrender on Tinubu, says Atiku. No retreat, no surrender on Tinubu, says Atiku. And the writer here vows to continue fight until Supreme Court rules, pays tribute to Gani Fawemi for starting battle against president's certificate. You're a serial election loser, APC says. And another story here at the top corner, terrorism, Supreme Court decides Kanu for the government's fate to December the 15th. World Teachers Day, Tinubu promises better days as Ekiti teacher emerges best in Nigeria. CBN mom as World Bank adopts Naira, Africa's worst performing currency. CBN mom as World Bank dubs Naira, Africa's worst performing currency. And some other stories here. Economic hardship to worsen as Abuja filling stations shut down over liquidity crisis. Others, queues return at fuel station. Trade. Germany contributed 3 billion euros to Nigeria's economy in 2022. Envoy is saying this. Tribunal upholds election of Nasir Idris of Kebbi as Kebbi governor. And Senate summons security chiefs over abduction of varsity students. NJI, EFCC seek legislation on unexplained wealth. All the details on the front page of the Daily Sun. To the First News newspaper, Tinubu's academic record, no retreat, no surrender, Atiku vows. Says Nigeria's reputation at stake. My lawyers ready to present evidence before Supreme Court. Asks Obi Kwankwaso to join fight against Tinubu. Says, I'll drop my case when Apex Court rules. Ex-minister demands Tinubu's resignation. And then another story here, alleged certificate forgery, why Atiku hates Tinubu so much. APC is reacting. Describes ex-VP's press conference as pitiful regurgitation of lies, advises him to accept defeat, lick his wounds. Right? And another story, alleged illegal nomination. APM asks Supreme Court to void Tinubu's election. Supreme Court to rule on Nnamdi Kanu's detention, December the 15th. Ayedatiwa's lawyer urges CJ to obey court order, halt impeachment. And over 110,000 passports yet to be collected nationwide. Immigration is speaking. Naira among worst performing currencies in Africa, World Bank is saying this. Senate summons IGP Wike over death of Abuja one-chance victim. Mohbad, police never invited me before declaring me wanted, Prime Boy says, turns himself in, taking into custody. All the details of this story is on the front page of the First News newspaper. To the Punch newspaper now. Chicago Record, Tinubu betrayed me. I'll fight till Supreme Court verdict. Atiku speaking. Tinubu supported Yar'Adua, PDP in 2007 presidential election, says ex-vice president. Atiku's political career has ended. He got nothing from Chicago Varsity. APC is saying this. NUT, that's the National Union of Teachers or the Nigerian Union of Teachers, demands more reforms, teachers to undergo internships. All right. Another story at the top corner, depots deserted as petrol landing cost hits 720 naira per litre. So many stories here on the front page of the Punch newspaper. And to the Daily Times, Atiku goes for broke against Tinubu. Presidency sent governor's delegation to beg me, he alleges. Rallies will be Kwankwaso use Nigerians. How I saved Tinubu's political career from Obasanjo to stand up for truth, morality, and governance. Oh, okay. APC mocks Atiku, says he has no case. And federal government to lift non-oil sector with 75 billion naira investment. Government seizes disputed Osun land, deploys soldiers. Stop causing trouble in APC, Ganduje wants Wike-led group. Some of the stories you find on the front page of the Daily Times, Kemi.
On the Daily Trust newspaper, the biggest story there is the latest regarding the Tinubu certificate saga with his main challenger, the president's main challenger, that is Atiku Abubakar, telling co-rivals Obi and Kwakwaso to join him to unearth truth. Accept defeat, lick your wound. That's from the APC to the former vice president, Atiku Abubakar. In the meantime, Obi has a reply, is reportedly replying Atiku saying the Chicago State University is your case. I am at Supreme Court on my own. That's according to Peter Obi. NNPP is silent, says Daily Trust, and Buhari's government revoked my contract, shared them to cronies. That's according to Atiku. Body of missing Plateau Fulani later found. That's another story on the Daily Trust. Premarital medical screening law underway. This is set to be happening in Kano State. And yet another one on World Teachers' Day, which was marked yesterday, October the 5th. Teachers there telling the government, the federal government, that is, to fulfill your promises to us 3 years after. On Nigerian News Direct, there are so many stories there, one of which is that Lagos State is to establish a $100 million African film city in Ekpe to boost creative economy. Atiku calls on Obi Kwekweso to join forces with him to unseat Tinubu. World Teachers' Day, Governor Abiodun of Ogun State gifts houses cash to teachers and schools. And there is a report down there on Nigerian News Direct that media entrepreneurs call on federal government to provide tax incentives to prevent extinction. On the Blueprint newspaper, fight against Tinubu will end if Supreme Court rules in my favor. That's according to Atiku Abubakar, calling on Obi and Kwekwensu and others to join efforts to retrieve mandate. Enough of desperation, lick your political wound and dignity, APC tells the former vice president. 8 killed, DPO 4 other operatives shot in Osho communal clash. DMO plans 1.2 trillion naira bond issuance for the 4th quarter of the year. These and more on Blueprint. This Nigeria lead story there is saying that Senate asks panel to quiz IGP and others over robbery victims' death as FCTA constitutes panel to investigate deaths across Abuja hospitals. In the meantime, FCT Minister Wike kicks against frivolous injunctions in FCT land administration. Supreme Court fixes December the 15th for Nnamdi Kanu's appeal case. Gateman backs triple life jail for defiling employers' children. That's all on This Nigeria. On The Guardian, it says, silence guns, not trade. As Africa's entrapped trade corridors worsen, the AFTA, that's the African Free Trade Agreement implementation, and there is a pictorial description of how things stand, with Africa trading less with itself than other world regions in the year 2022. So many information to gather from that diagram there. You might want to feed on that. In the meantime, tales of neglect and largesse as Nigeria marks World Teachers' Day. Senate summons service chiefs IGP over kidnap of students. Check all of them out on The Guardian. Quickly on Nature News, IMF grants Morocco $1.3 billion towards resilient green city projects after earthquake. Gombe, Jigawa, Bauchi against air waterborne diseases. And Governor Idris sets up task force to ensure safety in water transportation. Finally is Business Day. Business Day says Nigerians thirst for high-speed internet amid bandwidth glut. Tinubu's certificate saga threatens Nigeria's reputation. Remittances to Nigeria risk declining on weak global growth, and petrol marketers decry supply monopoly as subsidy creeps in. Veronica.
All right, quickly, let's look at, well, the story dominating the papers this morning has to do with the world nationwide presser that the PDP presidential candidate had yesterday about the Chicago State University certificate of the President Bola Tinubu. And he made a lot of statements saying that he is not backing down until the Supreme Court says otherwise before he backs down. If the Supreme Court agrees with him, then fine. But if not, and the Supreme Court agrees with the president, then he can back down. And then he called on the other leading opposition candidates, talking about the Labour Party presidential candidate, P2B, as well as that of NNPP, Rabiu Kwankwaso, saying they should join hands together in fighting this cause. And that's a quick update where there's a quick update on this regard, where P2B is said to have responded through a statement by the National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, Obiora Ifo, where he says he is currently busy seeking to reclaim his stolen mandate at the Supreme Court. And let me just quickly read the statement. It says the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, P2P, is presently in the Supreme Court seeking to reclaim his stolen mandate, and he is focused on that. He has been in the vanguard of ensuring a just nation where justice must be the watchword, and he will not stop until Nigeria achieves a leadership it truly deserves. And Obi has pontificated severally on the need for leaders to be good role models to live a life worthy of emulation. Basically, there's been reported that the Labour Party presidential candidate is rejecting, his hands of this invitation by Atiku, so to speak.
Well, there's no reaction yet from the camp of the New Nigeria People's Party, the NNPP, because the Atiku team also reached out asking for their support. But of course, we know that the NNPP did not file a petition at the Court of Appeal, which heard the presidential election petition tribunal. So how far that plea would go remains to be seen. But now the crucial bit is that how will the Supreme Court, determine this new evidence? Seen as the work is cut out, new evidence would have to be backed up by witnesses, and I don't think there will be room for that. It will be unprecedented if the Supreme Court does grant the prayers of Atiku Abubakar to admit this new evidence that were not tendered at the lower court. So we wait to see how that will pan out. But they're pressing on with their petitions, and we'll see how far that goes.
All right.